Hi everyone, this is Stamp Cut Create, Linda Huffman speaking. I posted a picture of this card on Facebook in a couple of different places the other day and got lots and lots of responses, but several people had questions about process, not just stamping and cutting, but also coloring. So what I thought I'd do today is start from the beginning. I'm not actually going to cut in this video, but I'm going to do the steps around the cutting. My brother Scan & Cut 350 CM is on another wall that doesn't have video equipment. So as I upgrade, maybe I'll be able to do that in the future. But the card that you see right here is the one I made earlier this week. And this particular stamp set is from Stampin' Up, and it is a host reward stamp set. So you have to earn it by hosting a party or whatever. But it is such a cute stamp set, and I'm going to be doing several different layouts of this card for our upcoming craft fair in the community I live in. The first one was done. There were a couple of things that, as we go, I just want to point out. And then I'll start with the black and white image and we'll go forward. On this particular card, you can see the stars in the background. Well, that was an afterthought. Everything was already glued down or put down with dimensionals, and I had to stamp those stars around it. So on the next one that I show you, which isn't totally put together yet, I stamped first the background. I laid it out, saw where my pieces were going to be, and then I stamped the top and the bottom of the card. And we'll talk about that when we get to it. So again, this is Linda Huffman with Stamp Cut and Create. I hope you enjoy this video, and at the end, if you could like and subscribe, I would appreciate that. I also would like you to make comments if you have questions or anything. Anyway, my website is listed there, and if you're placing an order of $150 or less, my host code for August, which is a blank on the order form, please fill it in, is NTZAUXW7. So here we go. I'm going to remove this guy right now. I think you've seen him enough. When I start with a piece of white, basic white cardstock. And as you can see, my two images, this one and this one, I stamped this morning just in the black. And they're right here. These two came right out of there. And I stamped those with the caroling mice, and I used Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and it's a dye ink. So I use that. You could also use, it's not going to come to mind. StazOn, which is also dye ink. And the reason we use that type of ink when we're coloring is so that the black outline doesn't run when you use a marker or watercolor pencil and blender, that kind of thing. This, once it's dry, the outline will stay in place. So I stamped them. I cut them out on my brother Scan & Cut. And normally I would do a whole sheet of an item, especially now when I'm getting ready for a craft fair or a show of some kind. I do more than one image, usually a whole sheet of one image. But anyway, I did have to use on these a little pencil trick, which Kimberly Smith, the Papered Chef, does quite often, which is closing up the lines. You'd use your pencil and you would draw around to close up any open lines. So you can see here that my pencil line came down here, so I would take in this little bump on the side of his nose. But anyway, these are all cut out and ready to be colored. Now, I pick my colors based on what color card base and pattern paper I may be using with these images. So, first of all, I colored all these trees, which I'm going to do another sheet of those because through the holidays you'll use a lot of trees. Anyway, I used light and dark old olive for these. And they're just, I mean, the blends are so easy. And I'm going to color this little guy while we're on this video so you can see. But they're called blends because you can mix the colors. You can shade and you can leave it a solid one color. You can blend your tree trunk into the bottom of the tree. Anyhow, what I do is I pick my paper, which for today is this blue background with a white image there. And so my light blue here for this guy, well, it's here, and the red and the green go well. So the colors I'm going to use, these are Stampin' Up! Blends, and you could use regular markers. They just don't blend as well. Or you could use watercolor pencils in a blender to mix your, give your image a watercolored look. The possibilities are whatever you want them to be. So I lined up my blends, okay? These three are the mice. This is a light crumb cake for the big mouse in the middle. Then we have the light gray granite and the light smoky slate. So I have three entirely different color mice. I didn't color in the face on the little guy, I guess, in my previous cards. Well, I'll have to color him in later, but I'll use the, maybe I'll make that a girl and use a pinkish color, which I kind of used on the inside of the ears, which would be light petal pink. Okay, then I went with coloring for the light post. Okay. And the light post, sorry, I used real red, dark real red. I used dark basic black on the top. Here it is. Can you see this? I used the dark basic black here. Then I used the dark smoky slate as the light case, and then the rest I did in the light smoky slate. And the yellow is light Daffodil Delight. So those were those colors. Now, I went on to do, I'm going to set those aside so I don't get them all mixed up. Then I went on to color the mice. As I just said, I used the light petal pink for inside the ears. And let me show you here. Inside the ears. I used light Seaside Spray for the jacket, the hat, the scarf. Then I used light sweet sorbet for these two hats and this, and this. I got some coloring to do here. I missed the bottom. Whoops, sorry. I missed the bottom of his scarf. So I have to go back and color that. But and then I used the green for all the green spots. So then I did one as a sample first, colored it in top to bottom. I did one of all 4 pieces here and decided whether I liked it or I didn't like it. And it was fine for the colors that I want to use in this group of cards. So then I sat down and started to color. And as you'll see, I'm going to try to sit down here and do this while you're watching. Let's not lose my markers here. Sorry, went to the floor. What I do when I start is I have to just go blindly, choose a spot to start and go. But once I've done an image like this and it's complete, I can set that down and look at the colors and go from there. Now, I'm going to choose on this one to start with the mouse itself. And I'm going to make this kind of a pinkish one to sort of represent maybe a girl mouse. I don't know. Go right into can you see what I'm doing? Let me move over here. I'm not really giving her a lot of facial color here. Just enough to make her stand out from the guys, so to speak. So here we go. This one is blank. So we're going to work start to finish on this. And remember, we've got a basic white background with a Memento Tuxedo Black dye ink. And now we're going to start to color. And you'll see that the black line doesn't move. It doesn't get watery looking. It doesn't blend in with the colors or color right now. I'm just using one color that I'm drawing on the face. And the blends, you can start with a very light color. If you want more color than this, then you can go back over it again with the same marker and you'll get a darker shade. Or you can do highlights or shadows with the darker shade of the same color. The blends all come in sets of 2, a light and a dark of a particular color. So this one is light pale pink. There is also a dark pale pink. When you purchase them, you purchase the 2. You don't have a choice. And I believe they're $9. They're in the Stampin' Up! Annual catalog. If anybody wants them and has trouble finding them, you can instant message me and I'll somehow I'll either instant message you back or we'll get on the phone or whatever. But anyway, sometimes people do have difficulty finding them because they're kind of in the same section that cardstock and ink pads and things are. So anyway, okay, I did the face and the ear. Now, I'm going to do all one color at the same time. So I got to do her hands too. Got to do them. Got to do her hands. Okay, so now we're done with that shade. So then we're going to go with the light sweet sorbet. And these blends have two ends. I have arthritis, so sometimes these work hard for me. Two ends. I tend to use this one the most. It's more like a paintbrush. This one is more like a normal, whoops, let's see. This one is more like a normal marker tip. This one is like a paintbrush. This is the one I use the most. So I'm going to cover this back up and set the lid aside, and I'm going to color the jacket. Now these guys I didn't do a lot of shading on. I didn't think it was necessary. And because I'm not really a marker artist, I think, they look good no matter what. You can't really go wrong. And if you're a perfectionist and you do skip over the black line in error, it's not a big deal. Most people that aren't stampers or crafters won't even notice it. But if you do, we have a thing called a blender, not a blender, color lifter pen. This is what it looks like, a color lifter. And it has the same two tips. And if you've gone over the line, you can pick it up by using the color lifter, and it will get rid of it. You may have to lift it over and over, but it will get rid of most of it. So onward, we're going to do the red hat next with the marker, and these mice are so cute. They just warm my heart and make you ready for the holiday season. Now that's all the red on that. Now we're going to go with the green, and I used the light old olive for the scarf on this gal. You can tell that even though I've distinguished between boy and girl, they're into unisex dressing. Their wardrobes are definitely unisex. Anyhow, a little craziness this morning. So now I goofed up again with my light petal pink. I should have also done the lower part of her body. But as you can see, you can go back. I just find it, for me, more organized if I pick my colors, do one, finish it up. If I like it, I leave it, and I use it as a guide. You can tell here I would have used my blues, or on this one, we have the pretty yellow and the grays, and this is real red. So it just moves smoother for me, takes less time, and I usually either have the TV or we have DirecTV, so we have music channels. So I either have the regular TV with a program that I can basically listen to because I've probably seen it before, but just noise in the background. Or I could be in the living room, which is not my favorite place to use these markers because I have to sit in a straight back chair, and it's just not as good. I don't have as good a light in there. But that's the coloring procedure. You cut it out in the black and white, and you color it with your markers, your blends, or your watercolor pencils, or you could even use crayon if the mood struck you. You know, this is all about being creative and doing your own thing. It's not about what Linda does or what Kimberly does. It's to learn how to do a particular skill and then adjust it to what you like and what you think your customers or your friends and family will like. I just love it. Now, this is the one I worked on today, and as I told you earlier, um, I've got to go back and color up. I'm going to give her the female coloring here, and I'm going to use some pop dots. But I used there's two little stamps in this set, and I stamped the background. I'll lift these pieces up. You see, I kind of laid my pieces out so I could see where I didn't need to stamp or where I needed to start the bottom and stop the top. And then I took my pieces off, went back and stamped the background. Not these little notes. The little notes were kind of an afterthought when I laid out the card. And just so you know, you can barely see it, but I think you can see it. I used what did I use? Let me read here. Nuvo drops. And this is a ivory color, which you have to let these dry. And I had time. I knew I had the time to let them dry, and I could have, and maybe I will in future, when it's wet, sprinkle a little glitter on it. I don't know. And I may go back in with a Wink Stella, which this is clear and has a silvery sheen to it and just sparkles things up. I may go in and do that on their on the light, the yellow part of the street light, to give it a little more dimension. But basically, that's it. This is a standard A2 card, cut. It's half of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, cut through the center on the 8.5 inch side, and then scored at 5.5 inches in the center of each of those two pieces. Then this is 5.25 by 4, and this is, I have to look at my cheat sheet. This is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. Again, that's 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. And then this piece at the bottom was a scrap. Let me show you. I have a whole container of white pieces here. This is a stamp cover. Stamp sets come in, and I have, these were just trim pieces off of other white cardstock that I've used with my ScanNCut, and had the edges that I cut off. And I used my Merry Christmas stamp, which was in this particular stamp set, and so was the little snowflake. So that's it. If anybody has any more questions, please let me know. Again, please like and subscribe if you have a mind to. And it was fun spending a little time with you this morning. And now I have to go finish my laundry. Fun things to do, but life goes on. Anyway, it's Linda Huffman from Stamp, Cut, and Create. Have a great day.